Hi, New Life family and friends. Day 4. I'm coming out of Psalms 4 today. David is facing persecution and trial. It's a very trying season for him. In verse 1, he says, "Hear me, O God." He's crying out with passion. I pray that we would all learn to cry out with passion, not just in a time like we're in right now, but we would learn to cry out with passion all the time to the Lord. In verses 2 and 3, he challenges those that are challenging him. And he says, David speaks to the men and he says, how long? How long will you keep pressing? How long will you keep doing? How long will you go against me and God? Then he goes into verses 4 and 5 and he's starting to speak to himself. And he says, you know what? I can be angry and sin not. God's not upset that we're frustrated with things that are going on in the earth, not just now because of Corona, but other times and other seasons. But he says, we don't sin in the midst of that. David guards his heart in the midst of those times. And so we can learn from this psalm. In verses 6 to 8, he then receives a blessing. And he says this, many say, who will show us any good? Many people in our culture today are saying the exact same thing. Who's going to show us good? What good is going to come out of this? What good can come out of this? People are asking that question today. And David immediately follows it up in verses 6 through 8. And he says, the Lord can show us, and the Lord will show us, and the Lord's going to make his way. And then he literally quotes Numbers 6:24 through 26. And he's talking about Aaron's blessing. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. More in this season than any other season that I've known, we need to be able to see that we have the peace of God and that we have the reliance of God, even when things are seemingly falling apart at every angle. God has us. God had David 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. He has you and I today, and he always will. As he closes this psalm out, he literally talks about how he sleeps in peace. We talked about that yesterday in Proverbs chapter 3. And he's not living in stress. My prayer for you and for all of us is that we would live in peace in the midst of crazy times. We would sleep well, and we would let his word comfort our hearts. I love you guys so much. I speak life and blessing and favor over everybody. Can't wait to hug you again.